Today is our all team call. Like I had mentioned, we have a great agenda, and I will get us started off by going through the run of show. Today you're going to hear from a number of people, but we're going to speak about our 2020 goals update, the 2020 hurricane response, SBP's anti-racist commitment, the employee survey update, and a development ask from Elizabeth Egley. So without further ado, I would like to kick it off to Liz, who is going to run us through the 2020 goals update.
Great. Thanks, Kyle. It's so good to see you all. Ran, I do have to call you out. I've never seen anyone smile so seriously before. That was really amazing. But aside from Ran, there were a lot of really wonderful, warm, authentic smiles. So thanks for doing that, Kyle, and thanks to everybody who participated. So for those of you I have not yet met, my name is Liz McCartney. I'm one of the co-founders and the COO. I know we have quite a few new AmeriCorps members on the call today. And I just want to say thank you for your service and welcome to the team. So I'm going to hop right into it. I have the very fortunate task of talking about the really amazing progress that we've made in 2020 this year. And as you can see on the screen, there are 5 primary interventions or programs that we're working on at SBP. I'm also going to highlight a little bit about a lot of success that we've had raising funds for these programs or interventions, and talk a little bit about the SB People graphic in the bottom right corner. So starting with build, we have made a lot of progress on both our owner-occupied rebuilding program and our opportunity housing program. Our initial goal at the beginning of 2020, long before we knew anything about COVID-19, was 732 homes. So those are rebuilds and new construction. We had to adjust our goal downward. As many of you know who've been here this whole year, we were completely shut down across the network for at least a couple of months. But we put our heads together, the executive directors, Thomas, Keith, and came up with a revised goal of 581 homes for the year. So that's 581 households having a safe, sustainable place to call home during this candidly really challenging time for many of us. So we are on track to hit the goal of 581. In fact, we might even exceed it. So rumor has it we might get to 590. So just thank you to everybody who's out there doing the work. Thank you to everybody who's finding creative ways to get the work done. We only have a small number of volunteers at many of our operating sites. So we really just appreciate the way that everyone is approaching the work and doing it so safely and carefully. The second goal I want to talk about is share. We feel it's very important to share what we've learned and developed over the years with other organizations so that we can help as many clients as possible. We had a pretty bold goal this year. We're not going to hit it, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately. The reason we're not going to hit it is because we didn't end up working in as many disaster impacted communities as we'd anticipated. That being said, we did award $2.25 million. We have awarded $2.25 million to other NGOs this year. And those NGOs collectively have rebuilt 105 houses, primarily in North Carolina and Texas. So really proud and thankful for the work that the team is doing in the share intervention. And I really want to give Tracy, the AmeriCorps program manager, a shout out. She's just done an exceptional job of working with our partner sites and ensuring that our members who many of us never have an opportunity to interact with have a really positive and productive experience. So thank you, Tracy. Hopping over to prepare, you can see that the team has really done a great job of exceeding the goal in prepare. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about prepare right now. I just want to acknowledge that we exceeded our goal, and we're excited to talk about how we're going to think about preparing communities moving forward in the future. It might look a little bit different than what we've done up to this point, but great work to that team. Advise. So Advise is our intervention where we have a couple of very experienced folks on our team who are working with leaders of counties and states that have received significant federal funding, teaching them how to spend that funding as efficiently I was going to say urgently, but as quickly as possible to help as many families go home. So JR and RAN had a goal of training 72 leaders, and they well exceeded that goal, ended up training 161 leaders across the US whose communities have experienced pretty devastating disasters. But the one thing I do really want to highlight here, and it's a little yellow bubble off to the side, is those 161 leaders represent $19 billion in federal funds that can help to repair clients' homes. So the goal here is to help others implement their programs as efficiently as possible so that they can get as many families back home into safe, sustainable housing. So again, just hats off to JR and RAN. Hopping over to Advocate, we have had some success, although we are definitely behind on this goal. We're really trying to change the sector, and we're learning how much time and energy and lift that takes. So don't really have a ton to report here yet, but I do see us laying a lot of groundwork that will eventually help us to change some of the policies and practices that are out there so that more clients who really need better both funding and better programs to help them after disaster will get that. Last two things I want to highlight, and I don't want to steal Elizabeth's thunder, but I do want to give her and her team a shout out. They've raised $21 million so far this year. The goal is $31 million. I feel very confident that through a lot of great stewardship and along with our Home for the Holidays goal, and she's going to talk about that shortly, we're going to hit our target for the year. And then lastly, SP People is a measurement of our strategic maturity score. We are coming along. I do want to highlight one thing, and this is really remarkable that our AmeriCorps retention rate is 88%, or was 88% in September. So again, thanks to all of you who are serving, rolling up your sleeves and getting it done. We are really grateful for you. We're going to hop to the next slide. Just want to talk a little bit about COVID-19, something that we are all faced with day in and day out. For those of you who are relatively new, I just want to provide a little bit of background on our policy. Our COVID-19 policy was developed with guidance, using the CDC and other sources that are out there. And then in addition, we had access to quite a few experienced industrial hygienists who help us come up with our policy. As I mentioned earlier, we did have to shut down a bunch of our sites, but we were able to develop a phasing approach so that depending on local conditions in a specific community, we could make decisions about what's most safe in that specific community. And we continue to do that day in and day out, monitoring local data and adjusting our operating plan when or as needed. The last thing I want to say about COVID is we're just so grateful for everyone's commitment to safety. Scientists have shown the benefits of mask wearing, social distancing, and washing your hands. Those are the three things that we can all do day in and day out to protect ourselves and to protect others. So it was so great during that slideshow to see everyone wearing masks and doing their part. The second thing I want to say is just thank you to everyone who's provided feedback and suggestions. And I really think this is going to help us to continue to evolve our COVID-19 policy, which is certainly not stagnant and ever changing depending on what the conditions are. So we're going to pivot here a little bit, hop to the next two slides, which are about planning and budgeting. I'm not going to talk too long about this, but just want to give everybody a heads up that we are in the midst of the budgeting process for 2021 and really working this year for the first time to project out for the next 4 years. So Keith and his team are meeting with department heads and EDs to think through what it's going to take to achieve our goals and help many more families come home next year. And then we're going to hop to the next slide. And I have a little ask for everybody here. So maybe some people see budgeting and that part of the process and think that doesn't maybe really relate to my work or my service. The good news is it does. So if each of us can just be keep an eye out for things like, if companies that we work with offer nonprofit discounts, if there's ways to get a discount for a subscription or a contract or any other expense that we have, that would be great. What I've seen over the years is that when people make that ask, oftentimes the answer is, yeah, and thank you for what you're doing for our community. So if you have any other thoughts or things that you think that we can be doing to continue to save money so that we can be really good stewards of our donors' dollars and get as much of that money into the community to help families come home, please don't be shy. Feel free to reach out to me directly or Keith or your direct supervisor. We'd love to hear from you. So I am now going to pass the mic over to Hannah, who is going to talk about our disaster response and deployment update.
Thanks, Liz. Thanks for the update on everything. So for those of y'all who don't know me, my name's Hannah Roberts. I am the warehouse and procurement manager in New Orleans and interim deployment staff lead for our Hurricane Laura Delta recovery efforts in Southwest Louisiana. So that's a little bit about me. Just wanted to share some updates on our operations post Hurricane Laura. So the team and I we have been working in Vinton, Louisiana. It's a little town outside of about 20 minutes west of Lake Charles. And that's primarily where we've been conducting our traditional muck and gut mold remediation. We have our folks doing FEMA appeal assistance, debris removal, things like that. We've had really great connections within the local representatives of Vinton. We've also started weekly tabling events with our client service coordinators to share our resources, and then also talk about our rebuild program that we're starting, that I'm going to highlight as well. And a little bit about our team. It includes primarily project leads from Houston, as well as a couple folks from New Orleans. I think I counted like 11 of them. All of them have been such a great part to this deployment and this team. If you know of someone that you are serving with that was on deployment, it's a long days, long hours, and yeah, couldn't do it without the folks that serve. And then just wanted to highlight, I'd say like a value, like an overarching value for this deployment. I feel as if it's steering through turbulence. I know all of the deployed members and everyone that's been involved with our deployment can agree on that. In combination with the multiple storms that have come this way while we've been deployed, also with the challenges that have come with assessing homes and figuring out, what kind of damage each particular house might have. I would say overall, steering through turbulence has been our value, and the team has done a phenomenal job at upholding that value throughout their time. Some challenges and successes. I'm kind of jumping to the third point. I would say some of the challenges, like I just had spoken on, have been the fact that we've had so many, scares in regards to storms coming this way, a second storm coming within, Hurricane Laura recovery, which was Delta, kind of threw the team off a little bit. We had to evacuate, so, but we got right back up when we, returned. I think too, we've really moved quickly in developing a rebuild model, which has been a challenge in a good way, where it's a new type of rebuild model that we're forming here during COVID times, and it's only allowed us to learn even more about how we can get folks home quicker and more efficiently. And then even navigating FEMA appeals during COVID, that's been a huge challenge for not only us as a team, but the clients who and the survivors who are surviving this disaster. It's a whole nother ballgame when we have COVID standing in our way and everything being virtual. So I'm sure Klee can attest to that as well. It's been a challenge, but it's been a learning experience for all of us as a team, and I know for the Advise team as well. I would say some successes we've had great, I think, results coming from our daily ops huddles that we started innovating for this operation, for this deployment. It's allowed us to align with national staff like Thomas and Liz and Reese, as well as the on the ground folks like myself and the AmeriCorps team on where we're going, where we're headed, aligning on, are we thinking the same way that folks at headquarters are thinking? And I think it's made this deployment very successful in that. We've had success in partnering with contractors that we use in Houston, that we're using in New Orleans for this rebuild program. And then just our team dynamic, I can't say it enough, the team that is deployed has been phenomenal. They've been able to work together, both the client services team and the field team, and made great connections with homeowners and partners in the area. And then I can't say enough, I'm sure Elizabeth Egley is going to talk about it, but without Elizabeth and team's work in the funding, we would not be where we're at today and getting to our first rebuild client next week. So it's kind of it all involves everyone in different ways, but couldn't have done it without everyone that's been a part of this deployment. And then last but not least, we are officially starting our first, we're little surprise, we're going to be setting our first NTPs here soon, and that means we're going to be starting to rebuild some homes and get folks back into their homes and have safe, secure homes. I can't shout out enough, our CSC Olivia has done a phenomenal job in gathering applications and vetting clients and getting all that paperwork together so we could start a few weeks before Thanksgiving. So it's been a long process, but a successful one. And we have, I'd say I'm going to say our first 3 that we're starting Monday. So it's super exciting for this team to see all the field folks who have deployed since the last weekend of August. And now we're into November and we're already starting to get folks back home. And that is so exciting. And with that, we're also planning to do some resilient building. So for those of you who aren't as familiar with it, we're going to be putting fortified roofs on all of the houses that we touch. So that means that these roofs are going to be more resilient to the future storms that are to come this way, and in hopes that that homeowner will not have to replace their roof, because it's going to be made to withstand the winds of a Category 4 hurricane. So that's also a huge big step for this rebuild program. So I couldn't be more excited to be a part of it, and I'm learning so much as a member of this team. And I know everyone, I can't say thank you enough to everyone who's been a part of this, and Thomas and Anya and Amy, who've been such a support from afar. So really appreciative of it. And yeah, does anyone have any questions? I'm gonna stop there. I know Clee has her part as well.
All right, Hannah, thank you so much. And if anybody does have questions for Hannah, please make sure to follow up with her after this or just later on today. Thanks, Hannah. Awesome update. So with that, I want to turn it over to Reese, who is going to talk about our advise and advocate interventions.
Morning, folks. Really excited to see everybody's faces. I feel like this call gets a little bigger and a little brighter every time. And Kyle, if there aren't screen caps to show for that at the end, I'm going to be very upset. Adding to the work that the deployed team has done on the ground, the advise and advocate team has been conducting a ton of outreach to leaders of impacted parishes and municipalities in Southwest Louisiana. So CLE has distributed SPPs, early lessons learned for government officials. This is a document that JR and Rand put together just as Delta was making landfall. We've distributed that to more than 80 parish and municipal officials in Southwest Louisiana. We've also distributed our recovery resources to those same leaders, encouraging to spread those resources far and wide to survivors who are trying to navigate the FEMA process. The FEMA process is maybe the most interesting thing that we're covering in 2020, or that we're following in 2020. So we've seen that Laura survivors were only getting about half of what Michael survivors got in Florida after Hurricane Michael in in 2018. And we're pretty sure this is because of FEMA's new COVID-related process where homeowners are self-reporting their own damage instead of receiving an official inspection using aerial imagery and technology or from an actual FEMA inspector. We've been drawing a lot of attention to this. So I've spoken with congressional offices for 3 Louisiana congressmen, both senators, and Senator Cruz's office in Texas, who just has they're always interested in what FEMA's up to. So I think we're getting more and more attention drawn to what we think is an underreporting or an undercompensation of damage in Southwest Louisiana. Due to Clee and Marley's hard work, and I know some of the folks who are on this call on Mark's team, we're beginning today some detailed analysis of third-party aerial imagery SPP has been able to obtain compared with these low FEMA damage assessments in Southwest Louisiana. And I think that what we'll see are images that would support strong appeals for a whole lot of survivors in Southwest Louisiana. The third point here, the mayor's convening, is we're going to endeavor to get together many of these leaders that we've been emailing with and talking to on the phone to share with them lessons that we've learned in disaster recovery around the country, but also what we're finding through this FEMA analysis. Our goal being to empower those municipal and parish officials to challenge the awards that their citizens are receiving from FEMA and to ensure they have as many resources as are available to begin a long road to recovery. So pretty thrilled with the impact that we're having in Louisiana so far. We had a really great call with the mayor of Lake Charles yesterday, Zach and I, and also the head of the Southwest Louisiana United Way. And I think there's a lot more for us to do, not just for Lake Charles, but for the whole affected region. I think in helping those local leaders do a better job of advocating for their folks with state leaders, we can ensure that Southwest Louisiana is a model for how other communities should recover in the future.
Fantastic. Thank you, Reese. So with that, want to open it up for Zach to talk about SBP's anti-racist commitment.
Hey folks, it is truly great to be together again. It's really nice to see those who I see and know the rest of you are here. I do want to give a special shout out to Catherine and Jenna. I don't know if anyone sees their screen, but when I saw them a little while ago, they are truly owning the root and mom ruling it by safely working on homes, it appears, while participating here. And I also just want to give everybody a huge shout out for navigating through turbulence and keeping our clients at top of mind. We've gone through a lot of data, but let me just pull out a couple things. We are on track in this pandemic time when other groups have closed down for quite a long time or stopped to rebuild more houses than ever before. That wasn't predestined to happen. It wouldn't have happened without this team. It wouldn't have happened without your hard work. It wouldn't have happened without your commitment to others. All of you should be incredibly proud that come this holiday season, hundreds of families, rather than staring into an abyss of uncertainty, are going to be home fortified, where they're told to be safe and know that they're not forgotten. So we're talking a lot about data, and it matters, but these are real people, you know. And I guess I'll just share one other observation. For years, I've been one sort of phrase that I've gotten excited about is when a family moves home, they're finally able to lock the door from the inside. Right, and you think about it, right? That means they've been at their own home, locking it up from the outside and going to sleep wherever it is they're sleeping. What we've come to see in COVID is that it's a little bit different. Families have been locking the door from the inside, but then retreating to the one room in their house that might have a roof, the one room in their house that may not be covered in mold, the one room in their house that's serving simultaneously as office, as school, as shelter, as therapy room, and spot for worship. And so you guys just gotta know we're talking about all this data because it matters. We don't want to just be a bunch of do-gooders. We are focused on goals. But let me tell you, the work that you're doing is having profound impact for other families. And I hope, I don't know if we want to do a round of applause or just a something, but great work, everybody. And I want you to know I really appreciate you. I'm now going to move this chat so I can see the screen. Aligned with our work, I can't really think of anything more important than affirmatively being on a journey towards being an anti-racist organization. We, as everybody knows, after the murder of George Floyd, SBP and a whole bunch of other groups brought the focus that always should have been there on racial equity and justice. We are not there yet. We've been working far ahead, but I was pretty intentional with the words that we're on a journey towards existing as anti-racist. You can't just wake up one day and say, I'm better. You can't one day and say, all my biases are gone. This is something you can't do. It's something you have to be, and to be it, you got to do repetitions. You've got to invest. You got to really think and be reflective. And I think that's what we're doing. And I hope when I work through this, what you see is that for SBP, at least, this was not a tactic. It was not a flash in the pan. It's something we're trying to ingrain every day, and the journey will continue. So, you know, when they do slideshow 101, which I never took, but they say, don't read the slides. I'm going to read this first slide because I want you to hear it from my voice, from me, those of you who can see me, because I think it's important. So I'm violating that rule. But at SBP, we will not tolerate racism, race-based discrimination, any sort of racialized action or racial violence. We vowed to demonstrate that being an anti-racist organization is a core part of our future existence. It's a journey. You just can't say I'm doing it or I'm there. It is a journey. We're committed to the work of listening and learning and speaking about race and race-based inequity and the enduring structural racism that exists in America. And we've begun to make changes to build a more diverse community at SBP. We're not there yet. We're working on it, and I think you'll see that. And then we will work to help create system change and racial equity, certainly beginning in our own organization with the same drive and persistence that we go after, that we use when serving disaster-impacted people. Listen, folks, this is not to say we are perfect. It is to say we're committed, and hopefully to show you we're committed, and we will continue listening and acting. We can go to the next slide. And so we made a bunch of commitments at the beginning of this, and I kind of want to update folks where we are. So we committed at the beginning of this that folks would have a no question asked 1 day off or equivalent, however they want to use it, per month for every AmeriCorps member and staff member to volunteer their time and invest in something that's dear to them. You don't have to tell your boss what it is, in racial equity and justice programs and activities. We have made that available. No one's required to do it. No boss, you don't need to tell your boss what you're doing it. You can do it in 1 8-hour chunk or a bunch of 2-hour chunks. And so some people here are going to share what they're doing. I will first share what I'm doing. I have chosen 3 organizations to invest my time, certainly resources, on this path forward. Some are here and one is global. So first of all, I'm working with the founder and board chair of a group called Barbershop Books that focuses on literacy for young African-American folks. By building, it's cool. It's not just giving out books. The goal is to build a leader, it's to build an identity as readers. So it's right. If we believe at SBP, people make decisions based on their identity. What would someone do? What would someone like me do in a situation like this? I really was turned on to their theory of change, which is to create identities of leaders. 2, Liz and I are together working for a group called the Precious Project, which is a school in an orphanage in Tanzania. We're helping them with tactical fundraising as well as broader strategy. great results so far. They have a fundraiser that they wouldn't have had otherwise that already has in the bank and it hasn't started yet. Nanya's helping out too. $170,000 with more to come. And their school is just doing terrifically well. And then finally, Liz and I both, and I'm sure Elizabeth, you don't know it yet, but you're roped in, are working with a group. Oh my God, I've supported these guys for years. Lizzie, help me. I'm having an anxious brain moment.
American Gateways.
American Gateways. I've supported them for years, which is an immigration NGO that is not fancy. They're kind of ruthless warriors and advocates on a grassroots level throughout Texas and do an amazing job. So I want you to know that's not just something, at least at my level, I'm talking about. I'm spending, and Anya can tell you, quite a bit of time investing in it as well. So I know that other people are prepared to share what they're doing as well. So those of you who would like to share, please go for it.
Hi, it's Goofy. For those of you, Kyle, is it okay if I jump in right here? For those of you I haven't met yet, yes, you heard me right. My name is actually Foofy. I'm on the national comms team, and my journey isn't quite as far along as Zach and Liz's as others, but I have been spending a lot of time reading and listening and talking to folks and thinking about my own actions today as I go forward and actions in the past. And I've done a little bit of research about where I want to spend my time, my volunteer time, and I found through an organization that I already knew about, an organization called Operation Restoration. It's based in New Orleans and it supports formerly incarcerated women and girls and people who identify as women. And they do a lot of different things, a ton around education, which I'm very interested in, and also not just the right to vote, but helping support people really be able to vote. So I'm looking forward to digging in a little bit more with them. Happy to share information about them with anybody who's interested. There's also another great group in New Orleans called the First 72 Plus that support formerly incarcerated men. And then I've gotten involved with a very teeny tiny sort of grassroots group called Rolls to the Poll. And that's helping first-time voters get to the polls. I started working with them actually probably last fall, tiny bit, doing also a tiny bit more this fall. So it's not just this last very important election, but all elections, really making sure that voters get there. So that's a little bit about my journey. Thanks for listening.
I can share. Hi, I'm Monica. I'm a client service coordinator from SBP Puerto Rico. So here in Puerto Rico, what we've been doing is, so just to be honest, I think that a lot of the times, Blackness is erased from what we consider Latinidad or Latin folks, right? And so like we have a lot of Black Latino folks, especially in the Caribbean, especially in Puerto Rico, right? And a lot of the communities that we serve here in Puerto Rico, especially we used to work a long time with Loisa, are communities predominantly of Black Puerto Ricans. So here in Puerto Rico, I've been focusing more on the supporting anti-racist work here on the island and in Caribbean spaces, recognizing that translates to a bunch of people from the diaspora that we have in the US, right? Like a lot of, when I used to live in Philly, a lot of the Black Lives Matter chapter from Philly, there were a lot of people from the diaspora, Black Puerto Ricans, Black Dominicans that were part of those movements, right? So here in Puerto Rico, there have been a couple of Black Lives Matter protests. There have been also vigils. And right now we have this organization, we have a bunch of organizations. So we've been focusing, I've been sharing them with the team, you know, follow all these people. They have a lot of workshops. They have a lot of panel discussions, articles that they publish, because sometimes I feel like we need to get away from strictly looking for our information in books and in an academic setting, and start listening to folks who maybe not necessarily have access to these predominantly white European spaces, but they are putting in the work, and they want to have these conversations, and they hold workshops, for example, or online events. So that's something that we've been doing here too. We've been sharing those things, and right now, actually, it's called La Colectiva Feminista. They're a collective of Black Puerto Rican women who are running a school, an anti-racist school. So they have like a couple of it's like they go in cycles. So they just started their first cycle, and when you go to the classes, it's kind of like 2-part workshop. We first talk about a specific topic, and then we go into committing. So now that we know this information, what are we going to do about this? And then we start kind of like constructing and thinking about different possibilities of what the future and the present actually can look like, and what are we committing to. So that has been really insightful. And also, finally, I think that as SBP Puerto Rico, we do have an opportunity to establish relationships with organizations who are doing both anti-racist work and relief effort work, especially here in Puerto Rico. Like Taller Salud is an organization who not only does anti-racist work, but they have prepared a whole emergency management resiliency plan pre and post for things here that happen in Puerto Rico, especially being a vulnerable Caribbean island to all these natural phenomenons, and knowing that these impact severely more the Black communities in Puerto Rico. So that, and we actually have worked with Loisa in a long time, and Taller Salud is an organization there that is handling both those efforts. So I think that that's an opportunity for us to reach out and also establish a relationship with them, not only so that we can actively continue to work on anti-racist efforts, so from the perspective emergency relief and resiliency preparedness. So that's just some of the things that we've been doing here in Puerto Rico.
Hey, Monica, thank you. It's thanks for doing the right thing. Really appreciate it, and thank you for sharing that. So I'm gonna move through the other updates where we are. So we now are a member nationally of the Urban League and in all of the communities where we're working, and we're looking at integrating our work together. So in both the Blue Sky Days, how can we help get people resilient before disaster, and after disaster happens, how can we lean on partners who are trusted in the community? The mentoring program is not where it needs to be, and I own it. We have made a couple pairs. We have not made as many pairs as we need to be. And that is a program that lives with me. There is a curated list of readings and topics that I know has been going around, and it's really been neat to see what some of the operating sites are doing and what some of the national departments are doing. So I think we're going to hear from a couple other staff members where we are right now with the readings, and maybe AmeriCorps members want to speak as well on what's been meaningful for them. I think we're going to hear from Keith or Nicole and maybe Andy or someone on his team. So let's talk a little bit about some of the readings and what people have taken away from that part of their journey.
Sure. Can everyone hear me? You have Keith McCullough here, CFO of SBP, and I thank Zach for allowing us to kind of talk about what the finance team has done specifically. What I would say for the group's benefit is I think while we got the curated list of readings and kind of went through it, I think what we needed to do individually as a group and as a department is kind of figure out what resonated well with us. I think we tried to go through the list and it just didn't speak to us as kind of finance folks. And so we kind of went back to the drawing board and kind of designed a program, or I think a program that seemingly is having success. The way that we've kind of looked at it and the form that we've created is we have a finance huddle every morning, and we've dedicated one of those morning huddles every month to just talking about racial inequities and ways that we can learn more about the subject matter. And so that could be a TED Talk, it could be an article or an article to supplement a TED Talk, or it could just simply be like some podcast that we listen to ahead of time. And I think we let the group react organically to that. We have every member of the finance team is going to take 1 month to lead the curated discussion, have some questions to ask us individually or as a group, let us respond to. But I think the most important thing we can do is make sure that we're bringing that back to not only our personal lives, but also how it's impacting the work that we're doing at SBP. So a good example of this is we heard and listened to a podcast that talked about, the history of policies and how that's led to generational wealth gap, and that's very much tied to home ownership. I think we were able to kind of talk through that, and obviously connected well with that to what we're doing with our OH, or our opportunistic housing first time home buying program. And so again, I would just encourage everyone to kind of figure out what works well for them, either individually or as a group, and kind of start the discussion. But I think we as an organization just need to care to continue to have to continue to kind of talk about the subject matter, because it's going to make us all better.
Keith, thanks very much. Yeah, thanks a ton. And I think Cam in the Bahamas would like to speak as well. So Cam, if you're there.
Yeah, thank you, Zach. I think I can definitely speak to the power of discussion that Keith touched upon here. Every Wednesday morning, we've been sitting around with our coffee and discussing readings that one of us chose for that week. In the beginning, we pulled from the reading list that was shared with everyone earlier this summer, but organically from there, we've started branching out into our own topics of interest within the greater umbrella of racial justice. And every week we've been incorporating critical thinking questions into guide the discussion. I think allowing each team member to choose topics has been helpful in directing the conversation in various directions and self-reflections. Considering we all come from different backgrounds and have different areas of expertise, it's been interesting to see how team members here in the Bahamas approach such a complex topic. In recent weeks, we often spend part of the time discussing just how this week's topic and the previous week's topic relate, because the pervasiveness of structural racism seems to become increasingly evident over the months we've been talking about this. I think the discussions have created a space where even as much of the mainstream media has been focusing on the election or other things, we're keeping anti-racism mentality at the forefront of our minds, because to be an actively anti-racist organization, I think that requires us to keep looking inward and keep deconstructing prior notions of the subject. And I think, like I said, the varying topics just really help exhibit to all of us how pervasive structural racism is, from housing to wilderness, and even more controversial topics like abolishing the police and prison reform, which we've talked about in our discussion.
Terrific, Cam. Thanks. I think your sound was mediocre. And so maybe if you get a minute after, just to write up a quick paragraph and just blast at the group, because I think you're both in embrace of critical race theory and just a sharing open approach and building it into daily cadence is fantastic. So I would like everybody to know that. Lauren, I believe, is going to participate and I think show how reading on one hand is influencing program development on the other hand. So Lauren, I don't know where you are.
Hi, everybody. Good morning.
Yeah.
This is Lauren Avioli in New Orleans. My journey has focused more on work and what I can do as the real estate development manager at SVP. So in New Orleans, Liz and I had been talking with the city as well as the New Orleans Redevelopment Authority for several months now about what we can do to help lift up other small nonprofit, for-profit, affordable housing developers, especially developers of color, because our clients tend to be people of color, and the industry doesn't really reflect that diversity here in New Orleans, or I think probably elsewhere in other cities. So I've been working with Dulcie after those conversations with Liz, the city, and Nora, to which Nora and the city had really favorable responses. They're really interested in doing something focused on this group. I've been working with Dulcie to create an opportunity for a local builder, small family-owned Black builder based in the lower 9th Ward, to work with us in Pontchartrain Park, which is a neighborhood here in New Orleans that was actually one of the first suburbs for Black homeowners coming out of World War II. We are going to be working with this group to build a home there. We were awarded 5 lots for developing for sale homes for low and moderate income homebuyers in that neighborhood, and we're going to be using one of those lots to start this partnership. And I hope that it's the first of many. We're looking forward to providing some training and kind of a little bit of mentorship, I guess, on not how to build the home, because this is a pretty experienced builder, but more how to navigate these sometimes confusing and sort of Byzantine government funding processes. And so we hope that by doing that, this organization can become a bigger player in the affordable housing space, because they'll be able to show that they have the experience, they have the know-how to work with federal and local funds, which is sort of its own specific animal. We hope to do the same thing in Houston as well. We had been talking, Mark and I, executive director over in the Houston office, about providing technical assistance in kind of the same vein to a community development commission that has existed in Houston's 3rd Ward, which is a historically Black neighborhood right near downtown that's experiencing a lot of gentrification. I think those talks about the specific project that we had been engaging with may or may not happen, just I think from a lot of organizational kind of back and forth that's happening with that community development commission. But I'm really glad that we've started the relationship, and I see us being partners in the future, whether that be on the rental project that we were initially talking with them about or something else. So I'm really excited about these new partnerships we're creating, and I hope that we can replicate them across all of our operating sites, because if we can start helping organizations led by people of color to provide affordable housing and really get even savvier about how to use all these federal, local, private funding dollars, then I think we'll start to see real change in the industry and housing that is built by people who look like the people that tend to live in it. And I think that that would be better for everybody.
Terrific. Thank you, Lauren. All right, and thank you, everybody. We're gonna keep on moving through. Kyle, can you go to the next slide? Let me move this. So as folks know, we had a town hall led by Dr. Jones in July, and we intentionally left some space between that town hall and the next one so that it didn't feel like a fury of action with no follow-up. And so the next town hall is going to be facilitated, and it's going to be a little bit different by a former board member and good friend, Latondra Newton, who's the Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer globally at Disney. And Latondra is going to curate the meeting in the same way she has at Disney, which is to walk leadership through with everybody our personal and professional relationship with institutionalized racism and institutionalized white supremacy, with the theory being that unless we have a real keen awareness of what that relationship is, anything else we'll be doing will be mere tactics. And so I do think it was right that we started, but again, this is a long-term commitment, and going deep and questioning what that relationship is. And if at the end of the day, the goal is to eliminate institutionalized racism, we have to be very intentional about what we're doing to take equity and resources away from that. And so first we got to understand where we stand. And then finally, we need to develop and invest in a more diverse team. And so SPP has a clear anti-racist and anti-discrimination handbook or policy in the handbook. Intentionally, our diverse applications are up since June, but we're not where it needs to be. And there is a diverse hire strategy that is implemented already. We are continuing to focus on increasing the diversity of volunteers, ongoing staff training, and a DEI committee at each site that will be a voice to the leadership in the organization, and that will drive appropriate racial and cultural competency. And so I want to let you know that's where we are. It is a journey. We're not there. We're not perfect. That's where we are. I also do want to share one other thing that I should have at the outset. We have a couple board members, at least that I'm aware of, that are on the call today. Lee Carter and Jackie Alexander are both longtime, deeply passionate and committed board members, and there may be others whose phone numbers I don't recognize. So with that, we can keep going. Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you, Zach. So I am going to take the next segment, and that is the employee engagement survey. For our staff here, for most of our staff, y'all took this survey in April. We sent out an engagement survey and collected data at the end of April. I know, many AmeriCorps members, I'm sure, who are also on this call took that. For a lot of you haven't. The next engagement survey will be sent out in Q1 of 2021. So I know y'all will look forward to that. To give you I'm going to go through the results, pull out some pieces that I want to discuss specifically, but to give you an understanding for those of y'all who either didn't take it or don't quite remember, the scoring was on a scale of 1 to 5, with a 1 being disagree strongly to a statement, which we'll go through, and 5 being agree strongly. One of the great things that I think, in this survey was the high participation rate. Could it be higher? Yes, of course, but participation rate was 74% of staff members took this survey, and 61% of our AmeriCorps members responded. So when you look at company surveys, that's a high number. I know that in Q1 of 2021, we'll beat that participation score. So going to jump into it here. So there were 3 main questions, and there were actually 3 other questions around our COVID response. Not going into that today because it doesn't quite apply. It was around teleservice. But the first question was, I would recommend SPP's services to someone who is appropriately qualified and needs our services. So these are average score responses. So for everyone across the organization, staff and AmeriCorps, we got a 66% response rate, and the average score was 4.7. So again, remember that the scoring scale was a 1 to a 5, with 5 being strongly agree. Staff, the average there with a 74% response was 4.8, and our AmeriCorps score with a 61% response was 4.6. And as Zach mentioned about Slideshow 101, I'm not going to read everything on this slide, but I did pull some selected feedback from both staff and AmeriCorps members that I felt really spoke to each of these questions. So, as I'm talking, I hope that you'll read one or two of these feedbacks here. So the second question was around knowing what success looks like. So my manager discusses with me what success looks like, and I know where I stand in relation to it. Our national team, everybody, staff in AmeriCorps, 4.2. So lower, it's high, but it's certainly lower than the last question. National staff, 4.3 average, and national AmeriCorps members of 4.2. And we'll talk a little bit about SVP's response to this question and some other things here in a minute. And then the third and the final question was, if a qualified family member or friend was interested in working for SVP, I would endorse SVP as a place to work or serve. So this is, in my opinion, the Net Promoter Score question. All team members, staff in AmeriCorps, the average was 4.2. National staff, the average was 4.3. And National AmeriCorps was 4.2. So again, this survey will go out in the beginning of Q1. So you will, everyone who's on this call, unless you graduate AmeriCorps, you will have an opportunity to respond to these questions and maybe a couple more. So we pulled out themes. Where is SVP doing well? And these themes are pulled from both the scores. It's also pulled from narrative. So every staff and AmeriCorps member was able to write an open response answer to each of these questions. So the three things where SVP is doing well based on this survey is a clear focus on our mission, certainly teamwork, both at the operating site level and nationally, and a true impact that we're creating in rebuilding homes and shrinking the time between disaster and recovery for our clients. Number two, SVP values are commonplace in practice and in language across the board. So I remember Hannah this morning speaking about our deployment and steering through turbulence was a value. That language and our values are more and more commonly spoken about at SVP. And the third is providing meaningful service and work experiences for our team members. So people are feeling fulfilled with both their work and their service, and that's truly what we strive to do from a people standpoint. So those are the things that we're doing well. The themes where there are opportunity for growth and our response to those. So the first one is we heard from people that national communications could be improved. And so our response to that, and what Fufi and the communications and development team have done a really incredible job doing, Liz as well, we've made improvements to our national communications through the SVP progress reports, or SB progress reports, the water cooler emails, and an increase in all team and staff AmeriCorps meetings. So what we're having today, the all AmeriCorps meetings, the staff meetings. And then the second thing that there's opportunity for growth is that team members know what success looks like. Y'all will, I'm sure y'all all know, well, you all do know, that we created, we implemented, and we review SMART goals for all team members. So 2020 SMART goals were implemented, created so that everyone knows what's expected of them, what success looks like, and where they stand in relationship to that measure. Leadership development courses is another through JR and RAN, and also Farmers for our management teams. And then the third is we've refreshed corrective action training for managers with a focus on timely feedback and one-on-one check-ins. So those are the couple areas where SVP is doing well, the couple areas where there's opportunity for growth, and how SVP has responded to those opportunities for growth. Again, everyone will have the opportunity who is still working and serving at SVP to participate in the next engagement survey. This is benchmarking. So these results were benchmarking our performance, and we will see how we compare in Q1. All right, so new staff members. It's been a little bit since we've had an all-team meeting. Since then, want to recognize and celebrate the following staff. So Georgiana Combs, project manager in Florida. Javelle Johnson, our volunteer manager in Houston. Javier DiNardo, warehouse manager and project lead trainer in Puerto Rico. Rachel Johnson, project manager in Florida. Doug Alexander, our national marketing manager. Hope Vocal, our National Communications Manager, and last but certainly not least, Lily Hannigan, our National Development Manager. So want to welcome all of you to SBP, and so glad to have you. And so with that, I will turn it over to Elizabeth, who is going to talk about Home for the Holidays.
Hello, everybody. It's so nice to see all of you today. So I'm Elizabeth Egley. I'm the Chief Development Officer, but I'm here speaking on behalf of an amazing communications team and development team, Doug, Hope, Fufi, Ali, Lily, and Rebecca. Today, I want to talk to you about our Home for the Holidays campaign. This is our biggest opportunity of the year to engage individual donors to support our mission. Liz mentioned earlier that the development goal for the year and how we're on track to meet it. This is 100% due to the fact that all of you on this call are the drivers of impact this year. We can't raise money unless everybody here is playing their role. And I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with donors this year already talking about how we're on track to meet our rebuilding goal and have the most homes rebuilt this year than ever before. And so first of all, I want to start by saying thank you for already contributing to helping the organization meet its revenue needs. A lot of what we've done so far this year is through corporate and foundation supporters. They are, incredibly, I guess, supportive of SBP's work, and there's an inherent trust that we are good stewards of their funding. And so we're really excited to have those donors. But this is the time of year when individual donors help us finish our goal. So let's walk through this campaign a little bit. Our goal for this campaign is $450,000. And the money raised through Home for the Holidays is used to fill gaps in our operational budget across the country at operating sites. It's basically the where most needed funding. And so as you look at this slide, you might ask the question, like, why is the goal less than what we've raised in years past? And I can kind of unpack that for you a little bit here. It's actually more aggressive because we're measuring only individual donations that come through this campaign. In years past, we've maybe added in like a corporate sponsorship for an event or any sort of like grant that came in during the time of the campaign. And so this year, we're still looking to raise money from those avenues, but we've taken them out of the campaign to focus 100% on the individual giving for year end. And so it's aggressive. And, we usually have like 2 big events at the end of the year that help us get to our revenue goals. And because of COVID, we are not going to be having those events in person. And so this year's campaign is like more crucial than ever before. We need your help with this. I mentioned the names of the folks on the team, and we're a few people, but you're a lot of people. And I think you guys can really play a crucial role in helping us promote the needs of this campaign. And I'll get to those in just a second. But I would like to share with you the how that we run this campaign. The center of everything SBP does is this idea of home. And this year, as you know, we are all spending a lot of time in our homes. And so there's an urgent need to get our clients back into the homes they own, and it's safer if we are able to do so. And so we center this campaign around the stories of the families that we have either served or are looking to serve. And we've shared a few pictures here of clients who we've shared in years past. And so many of y'all have played a role already. You've shared client stories that you think would fit into this story. And chances are at some point during this campaign, you'll see those folks highlighted as a way to help help our network understand the struggles and really donate in a way that pays homage to their safe and secure home that they have now, and use that gratitude towards good. So this campaign has a few elements. We have a traditional mailer that goes out to certain donors. We have weekly emails, and there's a substantial social media push. We know how many folks are on our newsletter list. We know how many of those folks donate, and we know how many people follow us on social media. And the data that we have based on those group of people shows us that we need, like, a crucial element of this campaign is to get new donors. And so that's really where y'all come in. Of these items that you see, how you can help, after this call, we'll be sending you all a 3-point instruction or request to do a few things. One is, this is the time of year where we all change our signature line of our emails promoting the campaign. And we'll give you exact instructions how to do that and links to the fundraising page. This is also a time of year where people are getting a lot of packages from Amazon. And just by virtue of typing in the URL differently on your phone or on the app, your purchases can go towards SBP. A percentage of everything you buy can automatically go to SBP and the clients we serve. And then on social media, this is really the part where social media and any emails you get, you can truly open up doors to new donors by sharing what we're sharing. You know, when I talk to friends and family about the work that our organization does, and even donors already, they're so impressed and they love to hear it. And in a time when everybody can use some good news, right? It would be awesome if we could ask you guys to share the social media stories that we're sharing. Perhaps one of our emails touches you in a special way, and you can forward that to a group of your friends and family to say, many of you have asked what I'm doing with this organization. Here's what I'm doing. And to the extent that you can, please donate to support. And so we'll share that information with you. Already, we've seen some folks on our team dive in a really creative way. I want to give a shout out to Giovanna and Javel for coming up with a really cool campaign for Giving Tuesday to engage AmeriCorps members and networks to push people to donate to SBP. We've done the math, and it looks like we need at least 600 donors to contribute to raise $150,000 of this goal. And these are small dollar donors. And I tell you that because every dollar counts. So if somebody can only give $5 or if somebody can give $100, all of that chips away at this goal. And so I'll just stop here, but I really would ask that all of you participate in this campaign by opening it up to perhaps new followers, friends, family, new donors, because ultimately the revenue generated through this goes directly to operating sites and to SBP operations. So thank you for this time, and we look forward to celebrating success at the end of this.
Fantastic. Thank you, Elizabeth. So with that, that concludes our all-team meeting. I want to thank everybody for being on this morning, for your attention. I hope that y'all have a fantastic rest of your week, a safe and relaxing weekend, and we will be in touch soon about the next all-team meeting. Thanks, everyone.
Great work, everybody. Thank you all. Be well. Look at all these notes.